Thank you for coming to watch Dr. Smith's video today. We encourage you to hit the subscribe button and the alert button. That way you can get notifications when he uploads a new video. Thank you for coming today.
So we hope you take the time to hear and think about it. And if you have a book, read in the book about the concept and the topics that we talk about. They have a lasting effect. The intent is not necessarily to treat pain, but to make permanent, long-term correction with your whole family and your friends.
Thank you. Make sure you subscribe and hit the alert button. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you for being here. If you have any need, do you want a notepad? Pen, tablet, whatever you want. You got yours? Are there any questions as we start?
Yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I want to know just a quick synopsis of, is it this daughter that does the blood tests?
Yes.
That's me.
Okay. So what is it that you,
What I do?
what can you get from it?
Okay, so I do live blood analysis. It's just a finger prick. We put the drop of blood on the slide, put it under the microscope, and then we look at on the screen what's in the blood. So what it is a right now snapshot of a lot of the inner functionality of what's happening in your body. So it tells the health of the red blood cells. It shows your immune response. It will show if you're having digestive trouble, and specifically breaking down, are you having trouble digesting proteins or fats or sugars, or how they're combined that way. I can find bacteria in there or fungus in there. I can find if there is malnutrition. So a lot of things can be seen in the blood, and a lot of times it will show in the live blood before they'll ever detect a problem with like a full panel blood test.
So it would give you a better idea of what supplements
Yes.
would help the most?
Yes.
It's like much more specific based on what's going on right now, and then you can take the supplements and then you can compare it again.
Yeah, you retest in about 30
later
days to see.
how it's cleared up.
Okay.
It's very,
Yeah.
very effective.
Thank you.
So do you tell us we sit there with you, or
Yep.
do you write it down?
No, well, you sit there with me and I tell you, and I also write it for you and send it with you so that you don't have to try to remember everything.
And you see it on the screen.
Oh,
You're
okay.
looking
Yeah.
at it
I
on
need to
the
make
screen.
a copy of that. That's cool.
It's very motivational. It's
Yeah.
very
Can you do like find deficiencies? at
Yes.
all?
Well, and that's where I say I can find if your testing is malnourished. It will show
Take them out.
if there are those kinds of lacks. It'll show if you're low in iron or B12 or whatever.
And
Yeah.
how accurate are you?
Oh, that-
How accurate am I?
Yeah, I mean, are you 3-1?
It's spot on.
Okay.
I've got a good track record. I did it for years and years and years for him in his clinic.
Yeah.
And we had tremendous results because it is so targeted to what's going on right now. It's not the broad, this'll help you thing. It's, this is what you need.
Okay.
Do it short term and then we can pull you off some stuff.
Do you have an office? Do you do it here? Where do you do it?
I do it two places. I do it here in the next room down from him, and I also do it out of my house on the west side. It just depends on the day and what. But mostly so far I'm here.
Now, some of you know that Audrey had cancer last year and had surgery twice, 3 times because of a screw up. And they always did a blood test. And the doctor would come out with the blood test. And of course I'm saying, what's on the blood test? And he would look at it, not say anything. He'd pause, he'd look at Audrey, he would say, based on the blood test, you're perfectly healthy. That's how good the blood tests are. And with the live blood, you pick up the other things, like you said.
That's when he started hounding me to get a microscope
Yeah.
again and start doing it again because I would have caught it like that.
Just like that, and made changes sooner to help
Yeah.
her get well quicker. And when people who've had COVID, you have a lot of issues that will show up on that test. So it's a good thing to do if you can. Okay, and then so you had another question?
Well, mine's really not a question. I don't know if you read in the paper yesterday about that 13 to 15 to 17-year-old child that died of COVID in the paper. Did you guys read that?
I don't read the paper.
Okay, well, it was a former student of mine, nice little boy, he's 15,
Yeah.
but he was already dying with cancer, and they're not saying that. And I know Boise put it on their Facebook page, and it's like causing hysteria. But this little boy, I mean, it probably took him sooner than he would have died, but his body was so weak. I saw pictures of him, and he was just so frail.
Okay, let me make a comment about what you just said. I've said it a number of times over the past several months. On the scale of 0 being dead to 100% of normal, healthy body function, the people who are dying are the people who are well below 50%. They're already sick. They're already down low. And that's why my wife got COVID, because she had had a major surgery in February, another one in March. They had to go back in, and they could wash her out because they didn't do the surgery properly. So she had a lot of expense on her body, and she was low. So, but she survived without any other than natural things that we do here. And right now she's doing very, very well and gaining. So again, why do we have these classes? One of the major reasons is to help each of you do whatever you can on a regular basis to move you upscale to a higher plateau. So if you're now at 50%, get to 60 or 70. You know, if you're 30, get to 40 or 50. It takes time, and it's all individual. And no vaccine will make you better. No vaccine will make you stronger. All vaccines are an expense to the body and drives them down. Drives your body down, at least for a while. So don't
You've
worry
got a
about
hand
it.
back here.
Don't worry about any of that stuff.
Just that, you know, this young man, lots of times when they have have cancer already, they encourage him to get the vaccine, and then of course they just.
And I don't know if he was vaccinated or not.
A friend of
Is
ours.
this the solder?
Pardon?
Is this the solder?
No,
Last
it's
name.
Mason Grimmett. It's his name. He was a sweet little boy.
Anyway, any other?
Just one quick one.
Yeah.
My grandson is trying to stand, and my
That's
daughter
right.
tried to stand up, put his weight on his legs.
How this?
2 months, and Milestone is 4. And she said, "Would you ask if I should discourage it?
Yes.
Discourage it." Okay.
Okay. Here's why. It takes 18 months for a human to progress to the point where they are as advanced as most animals. Like a horse. A horse can stand up and walk and run the first day. A baby should not walk, should not stand on its own prior to 9 months.
I mean, granted, she's holding it, but he's trying to put his weight. So, okay.
They can bounce and do little things, but do not encourage walking. Do not encourage standing. Normal brain development depends on the baby creeping. Creeping means belly, soldier crawl, crawling to develop a cross crawl pattern in the brain. Then standing, and without hard shoes, barefoot, and let them stand.
That's
where
the
they
Bill Mandela.
totally. And that's where the baby learns balance.
Mm-hmm.
My husband was an educator at school, and his father was a psychologist
Yes.
in the school. Anyway, they said they need to learn to crawl first before they walk, and that helps them read.
Helps them read. Yeah, the brain functions better if they get that neurological development in proper sequence.
When I taught the lower readers, I had, when they would first come in, they would crawl around the room for a while.
That's perfect. Right now, I see a couple of adults who've had injuries and to the brain, and that's one thing that we have them do now is practice crawling forward and back, and it helps them to develop the brain. At this point, even at age 40, the brain can still develop and improve. And
Does it help with comprehension?
what?
Does that crawling help with comprehension?
It helps brain function
Just
for sure.
okay.
So when he starts to get stuff, get him on his knees.
Crawl to her and back.
Well, and a variation on that I do every once in a while if I'm sitting at the computer working for a long time and I get tired or whatever, and I'll notice that I'm starting to type almost dyslexically. And I'll stand up and I'll do the crossover like that, and it helps to reintegrate the brain.
Do you use music?
Sometimes. I usually have classical playing and it's not the best beat, but I'll do, 10 or 20 times and it gets my brain back straight.
Classic rock and roll.
ABBA.
I had to teach my third child to crawl because at 7 months old he learned he could scoot on his butt everywhere, and he was very, very efficient
Moving around.
on his butt. Yeah, but I knew about the crawling, and so I did teach him. Later we found out he's on the autism spectrum. He didn't want to crawl, he didn't want to touch the dirty floor.
Oh my goodness.
But he did want to crawl, and he's 15 now.
And,
Really.
and sometimes they do that because they have a misaligned low back or sacrum is misaligned and it hurts them. I've seen those are the same. I've seen babies who did not walk even at age 2 because they had something wrong in the pelvis and low back. Anything else?
Okay.
So a quick review. When you're laying on your back and you do the sacral slide properly, that's feet are up, take slow breath, hold 5 seconds each. Then turn out.
12 seconds.
Don't bend the knees. It's not about the legs. When you change the position of the feet, you modify the therapy you're doing in the sacrum and the low back. Then you start over. And you do it the second time, starting with the opposite foot. I recommend the right foot first. Yesterday, a lady said, I can never do the right foot first. Can I do the left foot first? Sure, doesn't matter. Just do one side then the other. And don't do them fast, because remember, when you're doing the sacral slide, it's not about the legs, it's about the spinal cord, it's about the sacrum, it's about the sphenoid bone. You're giving yourself a micro adjustment to the full spinal column, pelvic unit. Spinal column pelvic unit includes the head, the pelvis, and all the vertebrae. That's very, very valuable. And the difference between you doing it at home and going to a chiropractor or PT or anybody else and have them do it is they may do it once or twice a week and they do part of it. when you do it at home, in bed, or on the floor, you're doing the whole spine. You're doing what we call repetitive microtherapy. That's the way you heal. It's not about just feeling better. It's about becoming more healthy. And to become more healthy takes time and repetitive microtherapy. Now, I've had people tell me, oh, I do the sacral slide different. Well, then you're doing it wrong. Do it that way. Now, some people need more than once or twice a day. Sometimes, if you're like very distorted or very stuck, you should do it maybe two sets twice a day. Don't do more than that. And don't try to do 3 sets or 4 sets at one time. It's too much. And don't do it fast. And don't try to break the bank when you're pushing. Pretend you got a cop behind you and that's your foot's on the throttle. About 80 is good, okay? About 80%. Okay? You know about that, right?
This helped my knee a lot when I was having trouble. You know, my knee since our car wreck, my right foot flops out all the time. But since I've been doing that, I haven't had knee pain.
Great.
It's helped a lot. And then you said to put the book between your legs and
Yeah,
then squeeze too. You know, and that's helped my knees a lot too.
So she's talking about a different kind of therapy in addition to the sacral slide. Some people, when they have pronation, when the foot goes down, always the knee goes in. And sometimes the knee going in is bad enough that it becomes now not a secondary problem adapting to the foot, but it becomes now a primary problem. So that when you have that problem, we at bedtime put a book between the legs, slide the feet together, and just do a nice slow motion with the feet like that to retrain the tissue around the knee. That's what she's doing. She's repairing her own knee. Now, a lot of hip surgery, knee surgery, back surgery can be prevented if people will do home therapy for a long time to remodel the tissue. Okay. Any other comments or questions? We're out of time. So the pH of the body is very important because, as was said before, blood is about 7.3 plus or minus a teeny bit. Anything you do like muscle activity, eating, metabolizing, has a tendency to make the body more acid. So when we measure the first morning urine, we are looking in the garbage to see what your body threw out. Number one, we want the body to throw the garbage out. So when you look at the first morning urine pH, ideally we want it to be between 6.4 and 7. If you check the urine and or the saliva during the day, it goes up and down a lot, depending on what you eat. Now, today I saw a couple who have some significant health problems, and the pH is all over the place. That's good because if the pH is always low, that means you're always acid. And the more acid the body is, the more deadly pathogens are. Like the one fellow that I said today has cancer. So when his body is more acid, the cancer works better. But can spread more. When it moves toward more alkaline, that slows it down because cancer does not like alkaline environment. There was a doctor years ago who wrote a book about, I call it contextual healing. And they talked a lot about environment within. He said if you can clean up the environment within, everything works better. Now that's true for without as well. You know, environment is a big deal. And of course that relates to the pH. Now with the problems that this couple I saw today had, we had a discussion on what causes the body to be acid. Number one, contributing factors, not enough water, not enough sleep, more protein than the tissue currently can tolerate. And it may not be a lot of protein, but it's more than the tissue can tolerate, so you end up with more acid. And the last one was mental, emotional stress. Now, if that's an issue, then think a lot about what we've talked about with keeping the body structure neutral, balanced. We can apply that same discussion to mental, emotional, spiritual,
The triangle.
the triangle, but that part being neutral. And now, when you watch the news, if you do, and you see people, you know, with signs and they're yelling, you can look at their mouth, you can look at their eyes. They're not neutral. And if we check their pH, they would be acid. They're self-destructing because they've gone overboard in expressing their negative emotion or thinking. So practice. And today we're going to talk about
Just the audio.
I have a question. When you make your breakfast cereal in the morning, you talked about putting some of the protein powder in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
When do you put it in? Is it the night before, or is when you're mixing it up, or?
I put it in only, I put it after I take it out of the warmer.
Okay, and then you sprinkle some on top,
Yep, spring it on top,
mix it
stir
up.
it in. If it's too thick, I add water or cream or something to make it thinner,
About how much do you put in?
the right amount.
That would be good.
I rarely use a full scoop because it's more of a insurance than a flat out need. So I don't use
How many grams are in that scoop?
I have no idea.
Okay, everyone excuse me if you can.
Any other questions?
I have one. Can MS be helped? Or I know the answer to that. I believe yes. Cardi just sent me a text and said to ask you that.
The answer is yes,
Okay.
definitely. I'll tell you a true story.
Okay.
About an MS patient, two MS patients. I'm setting my alarm so I don't talk too long. One was a nurse who was diagnosed with MS, and she knew enough about MS to know she was screwed, done. Like her life basically hit a wall. She was in her late 40s, and she came and asked me that same question, and I said, well, life is like a bucket. You know, you give her the pitch, give her concept of holistic and the things we talk about here, and said to her, if you do some simple things over time, number one, I can't make any promises, but I would bet that your MS symptoms will not progress. She was shopping for wheelchairs. Okay. To make a long story short, she followed the rules. 1 year later, MS symptoms totally gone. And she had great faith in the body's ability to heal itself. And another fellow who I treated his family, and he was a salesman. He went to a seminar, and it said to him, if you do what we tell you to do, you'll make $1 million. And you only need about 4 hours of sleep a night. And they gave him some hoopla about that. And he said, well, what do you think about that? And I said, well, it won't work. It may work for a short time, but in the long run, you'll go downhill. Well, he wanted the money and wanted to do that instead of be healthy. So he did that. It took him about 1.5 years, and he developed MS. Now, he had been too busy to come get checked. But now that he has MS, he said, do you think he can help MS? And I said, I can't help it, but I know your body can fix it if you do the right thing. So he said, well, I've been doing what they said. I know it didn't work, and now I'm scared. And so he, like the nurse, he did his stuff. Took him about 1.5 years, MS symptoms totally gone. He lost his wife during the MS deal because she said, I don't want a crippled husband, and left. So he was on his own, he got healthy and found another lady much nicer than the one before. So in the long run, he did good.
Very good.
And he's done good still, okay? That's a long answer to a short
okay.
question.
This is a very young man. His baby's 4, and he's now he can't stand in the shower. He's looking for a wheelchair. So
Remember when the bucket gets down to near the bottom with energy, any symptom, any diagnosed disease is serious. It becomes what we call a major problem with a major organ. It could be multiple organs. So we talk often about the deep hole principle. A lot of people have deep holes, and the bad news is because of the world we live in today, young people who are younger and younger have figured out how to drill deep holes sooner, deeper and sooner. So we have a lot of early major problems. I read this morning that Germany has recorded about, I think the number was about 4,000 deaths from COVID as a country. The insurance companies in Germany said, no, it's 20, not 4, it's 20. The country's downgraded it to 20% of what it really is based on death claims from insurance companies. So a lot of things are distorted, and that's, we have a problem right now with people who have excess faith in false sources and insufficient faith in proper sources. Any other questions?
Is there anything I can do to get my taste and smell back? It's been gone for over a year.
From COVID?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's common.
Mm-hmm.
neurological tissue is expensive. It costs more to heal nerve tissue than almost any other tissue because it's specialized cells. Okay, it's like gold is worth way more than tin. Nerve tissue is way more expensive than fingernails or hair or bones. A lot of people, even today, go out and exercise, they walk to try to build the muscles. They don't have enough energy left to heal nerve tissue, lung tissue, kidney tissue. Keep in mind, but again, back to the bucket. In order for tissue to heal, the bucket has to have an abundance of energy. An abundance of energy is not 50% full, it's above 75. And most people are much lower than they think they are.
So one of the ways that has been proven that I myself have used to recover the sense of smell and the sense of taste is strong stimulation. So when I realized my sense of smell was gone, I got out my whole array of essential oils and I would smell straight from the bottle.
Oh, I've done that.
To see if I could smell them. And some of them are stronger than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do it multiple times through the day to re-stimulate that nerve. So even though I'm not sensing it, the nerve is being retrained and remembering what it knew. And if you do it frequently enough with a wide variety, then it will help that regenerative process and the remembering process of what it knew. And the same thing can be done with the sense of taste on the tongue. It needs to be strong enough that it's going to be a strong stimulation, but it will help, you know, you want sweet, salty, bitter, like all the different things individually, and it will help to bring it back. I just think of it as it helps the neurology that's there to remember what it already knows.
Yeah.
That's totally correct, and I agree, and I recommend you do that. We call it repetitive microtherapy. If you do it a few times, it may help but not fix. If your bucket is empty, it may not fix. Like some of you have had the live blood exam with Deborah, and she has you modify what you're taking in and when you take it in, and some chemical things to clean and build the body. But you also have to have many of the other things that we talk about over and over and over, like sleep, water, okay? That's critical. So I'm going to pass the sheet around to read. It's a front and back, so don't try to take it apart. It's taped together. And that's one of the things you're going to take to get the laminator.
I think it's the same on both sides, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's the same on both
Yeah.
sides.
Oh, it is, okay.
You can rip it apart if you want, but if you do, I'll do that. Take one. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
So,
When you do the cranial micro manipulation or whatever it is,
microcranial
microcranial
mobilization.
mobilization,
Yes.
after you've done the stretching or the T-zones, sacral slide. Then you do the
Occipital release.
occipital release, and then you do that. So I have had vertigo for a while, and I'm very dizzy. But when I do that, then I get really dizzy enough, like I can hardly get off the floor. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? Am I doing it right or wrong?
Okay, anytime you do any kind of a therapy that enhances, increases, multiplies, aggravates, whatever you want to call it, the symptoms. The good news is you know you're on the right spot. So the question then becomes, how much should we do? How much therapy should we do? And the answer would be the least amount to have an effect.
Well, I just did it one time, went through the routine one time.
So did it happen over and over and over again, or just one time?
Varying degrees, sometimes. But one time I had to grab onto the table and I was thinking, oh, I'm getting nauseous. And that's the worst I've had. But other than that, it's just.
So I would say two things: do less pressure and do the therapy more often.
Okay.
And try to determine the direction of pressure that pulls the trigger.
Okay.
Okay? Therefore, when you're out wandering around, I need to have more compass. That's a good question. Any other? So the principle is the same for all therapies. If you, I saw a lady earlier today. We did several, and she cleared really good. And then I said, okay, I'm going to see if I can aggravate it. We get it fixed. Now let's see if we can trigger it again. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to find out if she had any weak spots that had been missed, or any other therapy she should do at home to help correct the problem. And she didn't, so that's good news. Any other questions?
I have a question. What if the doctor puts you on a steroid?
Pardon?
If the doctor puts you on a steroid, would you do a flora, take the flora and the GI, or just not take the steroid? Or?
I wouldn't take the steroid. Why did they put you on it?
It was my sister Lola. She wasn't able to come, but she wanted me to ask you. Infection there too.
Okay, what?
They put her on an antibiotic and that didn't work, so then they're trying the steroid.
So they're treating the symptom. And that's, sometimes if the symptom is really bad, that's okay. But only for a short term. Steroids do a lot of damage in the body. And usually when you have an infection, the best thing to do is to back up, take a broad look, and then come back and strengthen the whole immune system. And where does it start? The immune system. The gut, the small intestine, and then in the lymphatic system. You want to have healthy flora, and that's a better approach.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Steroid, people get cortisone shots and steroids and different things, and basically, in principle, it's like slapping a kid when they're hungry. You kind of get their attention, and they work harder to do things right. That's what that does.
When Chelsea was about 3, was when she has alopecia, was when she lost her hair. And that was the solution, was to put her on steroids.
Oh, it didn't work, did it?
Well, I didn't do it.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't work. It would have been better to do a broad, general approach to strengthen the immune system. Any other questions? You scratch your head, you get called on.